We are once again back this week to finish up our 2021 NFL preview. And I'm telling you right now, we have assembled the most intelligent panel in the sports media world, kids. I want to wish a warm welcome back to Daly Dose I-Team President, Big Rob. Rob, you are a regular here on the Dose. You are back again this week to talk some NFL, but thanks for stopping by again.
Always looking forward to it.
Mike from Castle Rock is back again this week to also talk some NFL. Mike, we are going to get into some really, really interesting teams in this section because we're going to be talking about our Denver Broncos, but thank you so much for joining us again.
Always fun. Love your shirt.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that very much. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes too. And Larry from Centennial is back again this week to enlighten us on some of the virtues of fishing and skiing and hopefully football.
Whatever you want, Clint. Yeah.
Welcome back to everyone. So far, we have covered the AFC East, the NFC East, the AFC North, the NFC North, and now we are going to jump into the AFC and NFC South and West. And then we've got a few things to talk about. We've got a number of things to get to, but let's go ahead and jump in because let's go to the AFC South, where we have a really, really interesting situation here. Because that division, honestly, top to bottom, it's not very good. The Tennessee Titans look like they should win this division easily, and they may still win this division easily, but it might get interesting down the stretch. It might get a lot tighter down the stretch than maybe we thought. Let's start with those Tennessee Titans, who started off a little rough. They got blown out by the Arizona Cardinals in week 1, but then they won 6 of their next 7 games. But then last week, that monster running back, Derrick Henry, he goes down with a foot injury. He could be gone a while. The Titans went out and they signed Adrian Peterson to take over. Hey, make no mistake, quarterback Ryan Tannehill, he's going to have to go out and earn his paycheck because they might not have that solid running game they had with Henry. Even if Peterson is good, it might not be enough. The Tennessee pass defense, it's still not great. Rob, the Titans looked like they were really getting it going when Derrick Henry went down. Can they overcome that loss? Can Tannehill be the man? Can Adrian Peterson whip this offense back into shape like he whips his own kids? Rob, do you have the answers for the Tennessee Titans?
I'm worried about the Titans. I think they're going to get caught. I know they did bring in Peterson. He's a good running back, but he's not Derrick Henry. And so much of what the other team has to do because of Derrick Henry, that's not a guy you can just, place in. I mean, they rely on him so much, especially second half, to just, run the ball, run it down your throat. And, you just can't replace that. So, I mean, it's good that they have a lead, but, I think they might get caught.
They could. And Derrick Henry, it's a different thing. It's a completely different situation. I mean, when you had Earl Campbell, I don't care who you bring in off the bench. He's not Earl Campbell. And that's what we have right now. Even if Peterson is really, really good, is he going to be good enough to replace Henry? Because those are some really, really big shoes to fill.
There's only one Derrick Henry.
Yes.
Yeah. So they got a problem because that was that was what fueled their offense, right?
For sure.
Well, Tannehill is, I think he's proven to be, a better than average quarterback. And I think he will continue to do that. But man, when you build your offense around a Derrick Henry and he's not there, that's tough.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough. And there's a team just behind them that might get interesting because the Indianapolis Colts are another team that kind of started slow. They lost 4 of their first 5 games, but quarterback Carson Wentz is now back. And while he still makes just atrocious decisions, the supporting cast around him is so good that the Colts might find themselves in the hunt for a playoff spot. I am the lone fool of this panel to pick the Colts to make the playoffs. And with the injury to Derrick Henry, maybe the Colts can make a little bit of a run. I don't think they could do much even if they did get there. And Wentz always tends to make the wrong choice. But the Colts are in a good spot. If Wentz would just stop doing stupid things, on the other side of the ball, Indy has got to find a way to get some sort of a pass rush because they have no pass rush whatsoever. That will haunt them if they can't put pressure on opposing quarterbacks. We'll see if the Indianapolis Colts can catch up to Tennessee. The Jacksonville Jaguars also had a rough start. First, they lost their first 5 games. Then head coach Urban Meyer was seen, skanking it up in some dive bar in Cincinnati. But since that incident, the Jacksonville Jaguars have won 2 of their last 3 games. Last week on Sunday, they beat the Buffalo Bills. Mike, is adultery the new battle cry of the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Yes, all the way to 2 and whatever the number is, 15.
15.
So, their defense played pretty well,
Yeah, it
obviously.
did.
Allen outplayed Allen, which was interesting to
So
see.
bizarre. Yeah.
He was all over the place. He had a whale of a game there. That was an any given Sunday, though. I think it's a fluke. I don't think it was a turning point. I think Jacksonville is still horrible, and they're going to battle Houston for the basement of that division.
Well, they just don't have very much talent. I'll give them this. I'll give them some credit for how they responded to the whole Urban Meyer thing. They're playing hard. They're playing with a little bit of, I don't want to say confidence, but toughness. They're playing tough. I don't think, like you said, I don't think that can last because talent, eventually the heavies take over and that's what's going to happen. But they just need a lot more talent. But give them a little credit for rallying around their coach and whatever he was doing in that bar. Going into the season, we all expected the Houston Texans to stink, and man, do they stink. The Texans have managed to win just a single game all year. Deshaun Watson is not playing. We talked about that a little bit last week. The Texans are an absolute mess, and yet, does it sound crazy to say they're not as bad as I thought they'd be? That I know that sounds weird. Rob, you grew up in the Houston area. They play hard. They're just terrible. I don't know what they can possibly do, though, because there's nothing to feel good about with that team.
No, not at all. I mean, they've got to figure out this whole Deshaun Watson thing. That's going to hang over their head until that's resolved one way or another. And until then, I mean, they're just going through the motions, basically. Yeah,
it just seems like they have a lot of problems that they're going to have to sort out. And the biggest one is their quarterback going to, be free and that whole thing, because he might find himself in jail. Fellas, I need to break off for just a second. We're going to get back to the NFL, but need to say a couple things here. Support for the Daly Dose Sports Podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below the belt grooming. They are the champions of the world. Manscaped offers precision engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. You did hear that right. The 4.0. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer just for you. You get 20% off and free worldwide shipping if you type in the code 20DOSE, 20 DOSE at manscaped.com when you check out. Fellas, Manscaped was kind enough to ship each of us a welcome pack, which included that 4.0 lawnmower. It included a t-shirt, which I'm wearing right now. It included boxers, lotions, a travel bag. All BS aside, and this Manscaped stuff is actually great. I love my Manscaped stuff. No nicks, no cuts. The t-shirt and boxers are super comfortable. The travel bag is like legitimately really, really nice. I'm a fan. Are you guys enjoying your Manscaped kits? Larry, you are first up. How are you enjoying Manscaped so far?
Clint, up until about a week ago, I hadn't used a lawnmower in probably 12 years.
Well, you pay someone, I think, to mow your lawn.
Well, I've had medical problems and, we can go, deep into the hole on that. Love it. It's great. Never thought I would delve into that, but it's awesome. Like you said, travel bag is great. Lotions are great. Love the feel. It's awesome.
They've got good stuff. I've actually been really impressed. Rob, what do you think of your Manscaped so far?
I would agree. I'm a fan. Something I never would have tried out myself. I heard a lot about it, but once I finally got it, had it in my hands and used it, it's I would recommend it.
No, they've got some legit stuff. Mike, you got your Manscaped kit. I know that you sent me a few things of what they had sent you so far. How are you enjoying your Manscaped gear this far?
I thought you were going to say Mike was sent you pictures. So.
No, he didn't send me pictures of anything he did, but I did talk to him, and we discussed that he would be roaming the countryside like a naked school innocent boy. And Mike, how's Manscaped working out?
That's the late night podcast, Larry, by the way.
We'll do that later. Don't worry about that right now.
I think like the other guys here, I don't think I had an idea that there was such an amount of product available
Right?
for men in that area. You know, I mean, it was when I opened up the kit, the box looked like it could have held a, you know, regulation size football with what all was in there.
Yeah.
So I
No,
was
there's a ton of
impressed.
stuff.
I
I was
was
too.
definitely impressed. The product is definitely top notch.
I'm going to give you guys a little hint. Take this for whatever it's worth. I know it's Manscaped. I get it's for guys. I totally get it. Don't be afraid to share with your significant other. That's all I'm saying. They have needs too. This product will take care of their needs as well. That's all I'm going to say. No nicks, no cuts. It's got a light when you're using it. You can see what you're doing. Hey, this stuff is legit. Again, get 20% off, free shipping. Use the code 20dose at manscaped.com. You need to go order their performance package. You'll actually get exactly what we got. Don't forget to use that promo 20dose at checkout. And I'm telling you, as the four of us can tell you, you will not be disappointed. Manscaped absolutely took care of us. Okay.
Game changer.
Game changer. It absolutely is. Yeah. Good stuff. Okay. Let's jump back into some football. Larry wanted some more personal stuff. We got about as personal as we can get right there. Let's go over to the NFC South, a division that has the Super Bowl champs, and then it has some other teams in it too. But those teams are actually proven to be pretty scrappy this year. This division might squeak in one more playoff team, one more than I thought it would get. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers won the Super Bowl last year. They returned everyone, and we knew they would be a contender this year, and they are. The Bucs are 6-2. Tom Brady has been excellent. He has so many weapons. They've got to be considered one of the favorites to win it all again. Mike, the area of concern for me is the lack of a consistent running game. They do commit a lot of penalties, but are the Buccaneers the team to beat in the NFL? How long can Brady do this? He's like an alien or something.
In the NFL, I don't know. In that division, I think it's hands down their division to lose. I don't think it's going to turn out the same as it did last year. I think the field's going to catch up to them a little bit more. They're going to regress just a little bit, and I think, you know, provided he doesn't get COVID again, I think Green Bay is going to be a contender. The Rams, the Cardinals. I just think there's better competition in the NFC this year.
The NFC is tough. There's a lot of good teams over there, and there's plenty of places for them to trip up, especially when they're not running the ball effectively. You're going to ask a 50-year-old guy to go out there and win the game for you every single week. You're asking an awful lot. The New Orleans Saints were a playoff team a year ago. After losing 2 of their first 4, it looked like they were starting to get better, but then Jameis Winston blew his knee out. Now the Saints have to either go with Trevor Siemian, who we know here in Denver, or Taysom Hill. Last Sunday, they found a way to lose to the Atlanta Falcons. Trevor Siemian, though, he actually played pretty well, but the Saints defense kept letting them down. And running back Alvin Kamara, he's not doing a whole lot. Rob, you and I both picked the Saints to make the playoffs. Can New Orleans figure this out? Are they going to be a playoff team?
They might squeak in there. I don't feel confident about it though. Loss of the quarterback, you know, Jameis, I don't know if he was the answer, but at least it was a big arm to get it down the field. They had kind of, you know, that's who they were preparing for the season. And now that he's gone, like I said, I definitely know Simeon's not the guy. If you try to do, you know, bring in Taysom Hill again with the gimmicky plays, I mean, that works for, you know, that'll work week to week, but, you know, I don't think it's enough to you know, definitely win the Super Bowl. Like I said, they might squeak in the playoffs, but it's going to be close.
It's going to be really, really tough. And the defense lets them down. It seems like when they do get good quarterback play, when they were getting, you know, even good quarterback play from Jameis, sometimes that defense still isn't good enough. I'm starting to wonder about Kamara. He's starting to regress. And I don't know why that is. We know the shelf life of a running back in the NFL is really, really short. You wonder if, you know, those hits are starting to catch up with him. But there's another team in the South that's starting to be real interesting. And it's the team we just talked about, because the Atlanta Falcons were expected to just be like hot garbage this year. I got to give them some credit. I still don't think they're good, but they battle. And the defense, it's really below average. They can't run the ball, but I got to give quarterback Matt Ryan a little bit of credit. He leads this team to kind of some gritty, gutty wins. Granted, their wins only come against pretty much bad teams, but they're bad too. So I guess I got to give them credit for that. The playoff starter right now, the Falcons would be right there, like getting into the playoffs possibly. Larry, are the Atlanta Falcons on the right track to maybe get a postseason berth this year?
No, I don't think they are. I'm not buying them. I'm not buying Atlanta. I think they, like you said, they've gotten some wins, and every team besides Detroit is going to get some wins. Matt Ryan is a great quarterback. I think we can kind of compare him to Ben Roethlisberger, right? They've been in the league forever. They know how to play football, but I don't think they have the supporting cast to make a run. So no, I don't.
Yeah, I think their defense will end up letting them down, and that division is tough. You're gonna have to battle to get a win against Tampa. They squeak out again a win against New Orleans, but we know that Atlanta, when they play the big dogs, they're probably not going to do so well. We finish off the NFC South with the Carolina Panthers, who started off hot. They won their first 3 games. People were actually saying maybe Sam Darnold really is a legit quarterback. Breaking news, he's not. The Panthers have now lost 5 of their last 6. Running back Christian McCaffrey, once again, is battling injuries. There are rumors that the Panthers were trying to put together that deal for Deshaun Watson. They didn't happen. Mike, if you were running the Panthers, would you still be considering making a deal for a quarterback that might molest your staff?
Hey, that's one of the tough parts about the NFL. A lot of sins are forgiven if you're a player. That's win at all costs, I guess. I don't know. I guess it would depend on if you thought Deshaun learned a lesson, or if he thought, okay, I was able to settle this out of court. Yeah. I'm Teflon Joe. I can get away with anything. You don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, with that many allegations, something happened.
There's some really, really weird stuff that happened, because they all say almost the exact same thing too. It's disturbing. Either a bunch of them got together and really planned some stuff out, or these were the most awkward massage sessions in the history of ever. Yeah, I don't know what happened, but it doesn't look good, and it would make you really, really nervous to pull the trigger and actually try to make a move for the guy.
I don't like the risk for what you'd have to give up. They're talking 3 first-round picks might not get it done. That's to me, that's not worth the risk.
No. And isn't it weird? And I hate to, go back to Deshaun and the Texans, but he's not on like the exempt list. He's not on. Why isn't Deshaun playing? Like, couldn't he just be playing?
Decision. That's the team's decision. Yeah.
I mean, he could be running out on Sundays, and he's not. And I guess they're just waiting to see, if he is officially charged or where this goes. But yeah, that whole situation is weird. Let's move over to a division that we all know so well, and that is the AFC West. And this division is not going like we thought it would. But I want to get your thoughts on how the second half of the schedule is going to look. So let's go to the AFC West. The Los Angeles Chargers came into the season as a team that looked good, but maybe not great. But now they're looking like they might be the best team in this division. Quarterback Justin Herbert is once again playing at a really high level. There are times, though, when he has lapses and when they don't always look sharp, and he misses things that he probably should get. And, while we talk a lot about other teams, and one other team in this division specifically having a really bad defense, the Chargers are one of the worst defenses in the league against the run. You can run the ball against the Chargers. That could be a problem for them down the stretch. Rob, you, me, and Mike all picked the Chargers to make the playoffs. If you were a Charger fan, how much confidence would you really feel in the second half of the season?
I still have confidence. I think they're going to make it. Like you said, Herbert, he's the guy. That offense around him, the offense itself, I think will be fine. So even if, as bad as the defense is, I think that offense is good enough to keep him in every game. And the way the division is shaking out, I'm still confident they'll make the playoffs for sure.
Yeah, they're going to be tough to beat. He's another guy. He's got a lot of weapons out there that you kind of forget about. Guys like Keenan Allen and Eckler is a guy that you kind of forget. He's really dangerous. He's a pain to find. The Chargers are loaded. if they could figure out a little bit of defense, I'd consider them to be a contender in the AFC.
Yeah, I especially with the way the division's fallen this year, I think they could, possibly get a home game first round in the playoffs.
Yeah, we'll see if they can shore up that defense a little bit. Next up, the Las Vegas Raiders are one of the craziest stories in sports right now. Think about this. Their head coach got fired or resigned or whatever with a 10-year deal and a ton of money. He's gone. Their star wide receiver killed someone. And, this last week, a Raiders cornerback made a video on social media. It didn't even get that much attention, where he was like waving guns and acting a fool and talking about shooting somebody. The Raiders had started the season winning games, looking good. Larry, could we see another second half collapse on the way for this team? They've got some weird stuff happening off the field.
They have some weird stuff happening, but I may be the only guy who's a Derek Carr, supporter. But I do think I do think he is a good quarterback. But I don't know if you overcome all this,
It's a lot.
Yeah, it really is. And so, but you look at the division, it's the only division that every team has 5 wins.
Yeah.
It's wacky, right? So it's going to have to sort itself out. I haven't delved into, like what the remaining schedule is for the rest of the AFC West beyond the Broncos, but man, it's going to be nuts. And for the Raiders, I don't know, you just don't know if they have the wherewithal to finish it out. We'll talk about the other teams, but the Chiefs aren't doing what we thought. Denver certainly is
weird,
overachieving, maybe.
I don't know.
And when I think we thought, I did not pick the Chargers to go to the playoffs, but I would change that now. I think they would, but at the end of the season, I think the Raiders still have a fighter's chance. Yeah, I think. I think this is one of those scenarios where they have so much going against them that it might be the story that says, wow, they kind of put it all together or figured out a way to make it work.
They're going to have to overcome so much stuff because this is going to build and get bigger. And the later you go and you don't really honestly have a head coach and, Ruggs, for as crazy of a story as that is, and so that is, they're really going to miss him off on the field because he's really, really good. And he absolutely takes the lid off the defense.
He does. But remember, right after, the head coaching thing, they came in and worked Denver.
Yeah.
They should not have. Right. They were in turmoil, and yet they put a game together and won the game. So, I think there is something there. And I don't know if it has anything to do with the interim head coach or not, but much like, Von Miller leaving, I think we saw that with the Broncos. They banded together, and I think the Raiders might do that. Well,
and you wonder then, because they lose Ruggs and then they get beat by the Giants in that week. And so you wonder how long can you kind of carry that? And how long can Derek Carr keep wearing, mascara and act like we don't notice? Because we all know, we can all see it. We have eyes. The Kansas City Chiefs have gone to the last 2 Super Bowls. They won Super Bowl 54. They lost Super Bowl 55 last year. This year, they seem to be living proof that there is a thing that is called Super Bowl loss hangover. The Chiefs are winning. Sometimes they win ugly when they do. They lose games they probably shouldn't lose. They commit penalties. They turn the ball over way too much. Patrick Mahomes is insanely talented, but he is doing things that don't always work in the NFL. I kind of want to get everyone's thoughts on this team because the Kansas City Chiefs are more than capable of bouncing back and having a really, really big second half of the season. But this team doesn't look good to me. They don't look right to me. We all 4 picked them to make the playoffs. That's in real danger because they're not a very good football team right now. Mike, do you give the Chiefs a chance to turn this thing around in the second half?
Sure. It's going to have to be a pretty big change though, because, just last week they escaped Jordan Love led Packers.
Yes.
By scoring 13 points at home.
Right.
Their defense is awful. Tyreek Hill forgot how to catch a pass all of a sudden. I don't know what's up with him. They're not clicking. I don't know what it is, whether it is the post Super Bowl loss, whatever you want to call that. I don't know. There's something teams are figuring out. Maybe Tampa put out the blueprint. Teams are getting pressure on Mahomes like that has never happened before. That revamped offensive line is not working. So I'd say better odds than not of them making the playoffs, but definitely not a shoo-in.
No, and you bring up some really good points, because you bring up some very real problems that team has, aside from the hangover and aside from Patrick Mahomes tempting fate by being on Madden. Very real. They don't take care of the football. They're getting pressure on the quarterback every time. He is still doing the no look weird. That stuff's adorable, but a lot of that stuff evens itself out, and it doesn't always work. And not in the NFL. The NFL literally comes out and says, how do we take away what you like to do? Rob, how do you feel about the Chiefs in the second half of the season? They're going to fix this thing?
I don't think so. I'm worried about it. I mean, they obviously have the talent to do it. But this is something, Clint, that you've mentioned before, like all the things that Mahomes did, the way he improvises and everything, it's kind of, has caught up to him in a way. Like I said, it's, he's great when he does it. He can still do it. But that's just not something you can rely on, time and time again. And like I said, the offense, it kind of starts with him. I mean, the defense has never been good. It's always been, this is an offensive team that'll just outscore you. Yeah. And like I said, when that's broken, whether it be Mahomes or the line or whatever, that's all they had. It was always, the offense.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And that running game never really has taken shape. We thought they were going to get going with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It's real hit and miss, that running game. And so we know it is Mahomes or else. Larry, how do you like the odds of the Chiefs getting in? We all picked them to get in, but are they going to be able to get into the postseason?
I think they have too much talent not to get into the playoffs. But, I agree with, all you guys, that the sidearm throws, all the stuff that was kind of miracle type stuff that worked in the past. There's a reason that it was so special, is because it was a crazy play and he delivered, and that's not happening for him this year. Yeah. So and again, their defense stinks, right? So,
I think if they get in, they're one and done.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think it's going to be a real battle to even get in there, because when you look at this division, I don't know about the Broncos, but the Raiders are going to give them problems. The Chargers are going to give them problems. The schedule is going to beef up and be tough. And the way they're playing right now, you're having to scrape out and beat the Giants at home. You're having to scrape out and beat a backup quarterback. And, they've got some issues that they've got to fix. And I don't know, honestly, I don't know if they're fixable right now. They might need a season to kind of go into the offseason and shore some things up. Let's finish off the AFC West with our beloved Denver Broncos, except for Rob, who really doesn't care left. This team is so goofy. They get blown out by the Ravens. They get blown out by the Raiders. They blow out the Cowboys. They trade away Von Miller. Now, it is my opinion, and you guys can tell me I'm wrong. I don't know if it really matters who plays quarterback. I really don't. This team needs to be fortified at nearly every single position, because they have squandered so many picks and so many signings for years. They're thin everywhere. So every team has injuries. I get the Broncos have injuries. They absolutely do. But you're so thin because you've botched so many picks and so many signings. You can't overcome those things. And so when I see them lose to the Ravens or the Raiders, or that game on the Thursday night against the Browns, they don't have strength and toughness and true talent on the offensive and defensive line that is enough to cover a lot of those flaws. They get beat. This team needs to keep building. They need to keep building from the ground up and from the draft. And they honestly need a new owner. And until they get that, we're all kidding ourselves. Anybody get a guy? Any?
No, I agree. I hopefully, the new GM is trending towards that.
Yeah.
I think he had one good off season.
I do too.
So far. The trade with the Rams, getting an additional second and third, is going to get additional, day 2 picks, which is always good. I like their second round pick last year. He's playing very well. So if they can turn this into it, they've got a ways to go. They're not just a couple players away. They are not.
Larry, what do you think about this? The coach with Vic Fangio. I think his guys play hard for him. Is he an NFL coach? Should he be the coach of the Broncos? Do you want to dump him and go get somebody else?
I don't think he's a great head coach. I hate the inconsistency, right?
Yeah.
I don't want another head coach, but I don't know that he's the guy.
Yeah.
I don't know that he holds his team accountable. Hey, listen, our special teams suck. Like, I don't know why McMahon still has a job, right? Fangio's calling defense from the sidelines, and Shermer, up until literally that Dallas game, showed no creativity. Did not show that he was using the personnel the way they should be used, and that's on Fangio. Yeah. So I think I don't know who's better, right? Like I don't know. I don't want to hire a coach out of college. I don't know who's better, but I don't think Fangio is the guy. I think he like I said, I think he just doesn't get it in terms of what your offense needs to look like. And he's supposed to be the defensive genius, by the way. And we've lost a lot of these games because of the defense. Yeah. So whether it's personnel, I don't know. You can't flip the switch overnight. Peyton's been in for a year, but I don't know that he's the guy. Yeah,
he's still making mistakes, calls, whatever you want to call it, that you would expect from a rookie coach.
That's correct. That challenge at the Dallas game, which we knew would give away a timeout.
Yep.
And I think there was a injury, so they only had like 10 minutes to figure it out and look at it over and over again. Right. And he continues to do that. So yeah, I don't know.
Time management mistakes. He's just not clicking. Very good defensive coordinator, not a good head coach.
Rob, you're the only one objective here. Do you give this team any sort of a prayer, or is it just going to be a long process?
A long process. Like I said, I agree with everything you guys said. I don't think Fangio's the guy, and that record is a little skewed. I mean, if you look at their first 3 games, who they played. So it's really, not that good of a team. But yeah, just long season.
And I'll say this, and I know he gets a lot of grief. I like what Teddy Bridgewater's done. I like that Teddy's been steady and he hasn't made huge glaring mistakes. I get he's not Aaron Rodgers, but I got news for you. This team isn't losing because they need a new quarterback. They're losing because they need a whole lot of things. And if you brought in another quarterback, what are you gonna bring in? Case Keenum, we've seen that. Joe Flacco, we've seen that.
Right.
Okay, you got Teddy Bridgewater. Build the rest of the team, and let's figure out the quarterback at some point. But until you shore up those offensive and defensive lines, truly, I don't know. I think you're kind of kidding yourself, and it doesn't really matter. And we have seen a blueprint of build the rest of the team, and then we'll find a quarterback that fits the situation. And maybe that's what they end up having to do. The Chargers definitely should be in the playoffs. Chiefs and the Raiders are going to battle and see who's going to get there. The AFC West should go down to the wire, though. I don't think the Broncos can make any sort of a run at a playoff. I guess we'll have to see. Our final conference is the NFC West, and you can make a case it is one of the nastiest ones out there because, again, all 4 of those teams are tough. I won't say they're playoff contenders, although with the NFC being what it is, I guess they could make a run. But let's start off with a team that has to be maybe the biggest surprise in the NFL. They're not just good. They might be elite. And that sounds crazy to say, but the Arizona Cardinals have already beaten the Los Angeles Rams. They've beaten the San Francisco 49ers. They have played and won games without their starting quarterback, Kyler Murray. Larry, you are the lone member of the panel who picked the Cardinals to get in the playoffs. I talked myself out of it like an idiot. Hey, this team is legitimately good. Can Arizona make a run at a Super Bowl?
Absolutely. 8 wins, right? Of course, they have to compete with the Rams, but the rest of the division, I don't think is going to catch up. I think it does depend on Kyler Murray. I think he looks good, right?
So
got
fast.
some weapons, and so yeah, they were went out to a hot start. I'm all in on Arizona. I think they make the playoffs. I think they win a playoff game or two. And if they do, then you never know.
Anything can happen for sure. Kyler Murray is so fast. He looks like a video game out there. He is just absolutely ridiculous. And you forget how many guys that they kind of brought in. They got Watt and they've got Hopkins, and they've got a ton of talent down there. That's a really good football team. And I keep kind of waiting. When's the shoe going to fall off? Like, is this really going to hold up? They just keep proving me wrong, and they keep winning week after week. Arizona Cardinals are a good football team.
They are.
Yeah, I kind of can't believe I'm saying that. Let's move to that other team in that division, and that is the Los Angeles Rams, who are Super Bowl or bust. They keep just pushing their chips into the middle of the table. After making that trade to get quarterback Matt Stafford, the Rams made another trade with the Broncos to get pass rusher Von Miller to add to what's already a really, really good defense. Rob, you have the Rams going to the Super Bowl back in August or whenever we did our preseason show. You got to be feeling pretty good. This team is stacked. Are they going to be able to make that run all the way to the bowl?
I think so. I'm still on them, staying strong with them. Like you said, the trade for Stafford worked out. I don't think, couldn't have been better for them.
No.
So that's an offense, all the weapons around him. You're getting a good running game as well. So that's a team, I feel can score on anybody. And then, like I said, you bring in Von. So that defense, especially, if you look ahead to playing the Bucks, you can get that pressure just from the front four. So yeah, I'm all in on them still.
I am too. And you got Aaron Donald inside, who is just an absolute monster. And now you're telling me you also got to worry about Von Miller. And if you throw it out there on the, to the corner, you've got Jalen Ramsey out. They are loaded. That NFC is the top of it is really, really stacking up and look really, really tough. Rams, Cardinals, Buccaneers, Packers. I don't want to throw the Cowboys in there because I don't think they belong, but you know what I'm saying. There's some really good teams over in that NFC. San Francisco 49ers are stumbling a little bit, though. They went out, they drafted quarterback Trey Lance, and big surprise, starting quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo is not playing all that well. But Lance isn't ready to take over yet. He's not even close. The Niners turn the ball over too much. They allow too many points. Mike, this might sound a little bit crazy, but could head coach Kyle Shanahan be on a hot seat?
Well, they've been a disappointment the last couple of years. He came in and he turned them around pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I think it's too soon to say that this year.
Yeah.
I don't think he is this year. He's young. He's got a good offensive philosophy. I think they got to give him at least another year.
Do you make the move to Lance this season? Do you stick with Garoppolo and write it out?
There's a lot of factors in that, obviously, but if you get to a point where there's 3 or 4 games left and you don't have a shot for the playoffs, put them in.
Yeah, you might as well.
Learn better on the field than, in the film room. So
sure. He's a big, strong kid. You can just tell he is just not polished at all. He is not ready quite yet, but
that was the report, coming out of college.
Yeah.
He's not going to start right away. He's a project. So get him some reps.
We finish off our mid-season look at each team in the NFL, and we finish off with the Seattle Seahawks, who were struggling to start the season. And then starting quarterback Russell Wilson got injured. On top of that, he hurt his hand. Now the Seahawks are really struggling. Larry, you and Mike actually had the Seahawks getting into the playoffs back in August when we did our preseason show. But I got to think with the loss of Wilson, you're kind of wanting a mulligan on that one because they're struggling right now.
Yeah, I'd sell that. Russell Wilson means so much.
Yes.
To that team.
Yeah, he does.
He's just the glue and always has been, really.
Yeah.
They do have, and the defense that they rely on so heavily in the past isn't there. It's not the same.
No, not the same.
Metcalf is a great player, right? But if you don't have Russell Wilson back there, conducting the orchestra, he's a difference maker. So no, in this division anyway, I don't think you come back and play division games at the end of the year and beat the last Rams and Arizona. But what I guess we don't know is when Wilson will be back, right? Penny comes out of the finger. If it comes back, I guess they have a shot at a wild card, but I don't think they contend for the division.
Show of hands, who knew Gino Smith was still in the league? Anybody? No? Okay. None of us. Yeah. I had no idea.
Seattle, they're not just chasing two of the best teams in the division. They're chasing two of the best teams in football.
Yeah, they are. And that's so much to make up. Like Larry said, you're trying to make up ground and you're trying to make it up against top flight teams in the entire league. They've got a really, really tough road if they're going to get back. I'm starting to wonder if Russ comes back, do you even put him back in? Do you just say, forget it, this season's a wash, let's start looking to next year and finish out the year with, Gino Smith, who I literally had no idea he was even still playing.
That was the funniest thing in the world too, because when he showed up, we haven't seen him for like 5 years, right?
Right.
He was with the Jets, I think, right?
Yeah. He runs out on the field and everybody's like, who? He's still there?
Is that a different Gino Smith?
Got to be his son or something. That can't be the same guy. Yeah, and then you saw people drafting him on their fantasy team, and you're like, amateurs. He's not going to help you one single bit. Rob, you watched Gino Smith for 3-4 years at West Virginia. You already knew.
I did. Yeah. Blast from the past. And just like last week, Colt McCoy for the Cardinals. Yeah.
For the Cardinals comes out. And
I didn't even know. Yeah.
Who knew?
Still around.
Right. Yeah.
Chris Sims.
Yeah. We'll have Chris Sims coming out next. He'll be starting for somebody. Had no idea some of these guys were even still in the league. Yeah. Here we go though. Fellas, let's jump into some mid-season awards. And if you were handing out right now your most valuable player, I realize we're only halfway through the season. We just finished week 9, week 10, kind of in that area. But if you were going to give out your most valuable player, and I'll give you a second to kind of think about your answer. If I were giving out my MVP right now, it would really be unpopular. No one's going to like it. There's going to be a lot of people get mad at me. There's going to be people that say that I would be in favor of killing grandma or whatever. I got news for you. I'm handing my MVP to Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers because we can see what they are without him. They are nothing. He garbage. They're horrible. And I don't know what Love has been doing because Jordan Love clearly hasn't been practicing. He's not good at football. So I would give my MVP right now to Aaron Rodgers because he really changes the way they look. But Rob, if you were handing out your MVP at the midway point, is there anybody that comes to mind that you would be giving that award to?
Rodgers was a good one. I would say Dak Prescott went down with the injury last season and, obviously back this season, short of last week, had an off day. But besides that, I mean, he's been out there and, kind of just rolling with that team, that offense. He's looked great. So, I would give it to Dak. That's
a good call. Larry, who do you have for your MVP right now at the halfway point?
Wow. And this is one that, right. I know what has happened, but I would have given it to Derrick Henry.
Yeah. And I thought of that too.
Such a, pivotal role for Tennessee. Dark horse, Herbert.
Yeah, Justin Herbert would be in the conversation for sure. Mike, you got an MVP right now at the halfway point?
I do like the Rodgers pick. That makes perfect sense because by the literal definition, he is the most valuable player on that team.
He's really, really valuable to that team. They don't look very good without him.
I got to give some shout out to Stafford, though.
Yeah, Matt Stafford's doing good.
He has come to life. He is doing what he's dreamt of doing his entire professional career out there. So
Yep.
I think he'd be a pretty good candidate too.
It is hard not to be happy for that guy. And you know a little bit of his background and what's gone on with his wife and that whole thing. For him to actually get a chance to be on a good team and have a chance, he's got a shot at winning a ring this year. No, that's a good call. Matt Stafford's got to be in the conversation. If you were going to throw out a player for offensive player of the year, again, we're only halfway through, number of different candidates you could go with. I'm going to go with a stupid one, and I feel bad saying it, but my goodness, old man Tom Brady has already thrown like 25 touchdowns. He's still playing at a really high level. I keep waiting for him to fall off the cliff, and it doesn't happen. I would go offensive player of the year with Tom Brady. Rob, who would you go offensive player of the year right now?
I know we already mentioned him, but I think Matt Stafford. I mean, the way he's came in, took over that offense, it's been humming. So, I'd say Stafford.
Larry, who do you have for your offensive player of the year right now?
I think Josh Allen, and I know he had, he struggled, but I think he's got the Bills right where, I think he's proven what he can do: run, pass. I think he's very, a lot like Aaron Rodgers. If Josh Allen isn't on that team, they're nowhere close to where they are today. So
I'd agree with that.
Offensive MVP, Josh Allen.
Do you guys ever think about the fact that the Denver Broncos could have taken Josh Allen and we would have ruined him and he would be out of the league now too? So, Mike, who would your pick be for offensive player of the year?
But we got Bradley Chubb instead. I think, no pun intended, I think he was running away with it, Derrick Henry, but that unfortunate injury sidelined him for that. I got to give some love to Cooper Kupp.
Cooper Kupp's playing really, really well.
Unbelievable. The numbers he's putting up and what he's projected to do are insane.
Yeah. And he's got to be so grateful that Matt Stafford is there.
Yes.
As opposed to Jared Goff, because that has changed his world dramatically. If you had to hand out a defensive player of the year, and I know that the NFL is a league that doesn't like defense and they try to make them play in handcuffs and foot restraints and they don't let them do anything, I would probably give my defensive player of the year, I guess, to Cleveland Browns pass rusher Myles Garrett. He's leading the league in sacks and he's like 2 ahead of the next closest guy. And he hasn't hit a single opposing player with his helmet this year. There's a lot to be said for that. Rob, if you were giving out a defensive player of the year, who would you be handing it to right now at the midway point?
His name escapes me. It's one of the players on the Cowboys. Say it again.
Trevon Diggs.
Yeah. Yep. I think, what did he start?
Trevon Diggs, the corner?
Yep.
Yeah. He's got 7 picks. Yeah, he's tearing it
the
up.
First games. Yeah. So that would be my runaway pick.
I could understand that. That's a good call. He's doing some good things. Larry, who would you have as your defensive player of the year?
And that was my guy.
Diggs.
I didn't hear his name called at all, last week with the Broncos.
No, he got torched.
But he's lighting it up.
Yeah.
He's playing his position well. I think, makes that defense go. So that's my guy too. I'm with Rob.
Mike, who do you have as your defensive player of the year?
Well, I think we're all in agreement here. Those were actually my top 2 guys.
Okay.
Either one of them you can't go wrong with. I think, both of them at the pace they're going have a chance to set the single season records for interceptions and or sacks. It's
they do.
Crazy the numbers these guys are putting up. So I think either one of them are a great pick for halfway through the season right now.
If you're going to go with a coach of the year, and Mike and I think did this midseason report last year, and Mike and I were looking at how things were going at the midway point. We're looking at this team, we're looking at this player, we're looking at this coach. And at the halfway point, we said, this is the guy, and I'm going to go with this guy again. He's got a great start to the season, and I'm going to jinx him, and they're going to go straight in the toilet because Arizona Cardinals head coach Cliff Kingsbury is great right now. He looks so good right now. And yet I know in the back of my mind, I know what Cliff Kingsbury does, and it doesn't usually end well. I'll go with Kingsbury because right now Arizona looks phenomenal. Rob, if you were handing out a coach of the year at the midway point, who would you be handing it to?
Brandon Staley, Chargers.
Yeah.
Young coach in there. And I just like, just the way he coaches, going for it on 4th down. Not always following the same traditional trends. Seems kind of a new age coach, So yeah, that would be it for me.
I like that pick. That's a good pick. Larry, if you were going with a coach of the year, who would you be handing it to right now?
Vic Fangio. No.
The Dallas Cowboys agree with you.
I'm with Cliff Kingsbury too. I mean, they got the record. They got hot. Yeah, this team playing well. So yeah, I'm with I like Kingsbury.
Yeah, Mike McCarthy also voted for Vic Fangio. Mike, who do you have for coach of the year right now?
What I gotta wonder is how well that guy interviewed, because he was not a good college coach.
Kingsbury, I don't know how he got the job. I genuinely don't.
He was not good at Texas Tech. It makes no sense. But he has designed that team. He has built that team around the strength of the quarterback.
Yep.
And let every other team take a note. That's what you do. You build around the strength of your quarterback. Yes. And yeah, I agree. That's 3 out of 4. I think he's the leading candidate so far this year.
Okay, I'm gonna lob this idea out to you and think about this for a second. If you were going with the surprise team so far, not the team that we all saw coming, we all knew that was going to happen, but who would your surprise maybe team or player or coach? Who would your surprise team be? I've got to take the obvious. I'll go with the Cardinals. I didn't know if the Cardinals would even make the playoffs. They look like they could be like a 1 or a 2 seed going into the playoffs. So I'll take the Cardinals as my surprise. But I know that there's some other teams out there that could be a surprise for you. Maybe it's a player. Maybe, like I said, it's a coach or something like that. Rob, if you had to pick one surprise for the first half of the season, who would you go with?
I'll take a team as well. And for me, it's the Chiefs. I know we talked about them before, the way they've been struggling, but I just didn't see this much of a drop off. I mean, they really look bad, and I'm still really can't figure it out.
I can't either. And that's a good call because, we all penciled the Kansas City Chiefs into the playoffs. We don't even know if they're going to get there. And if they do, we've talked about it, they're going to probably struggle. That's a big surprise. I don't think any of us saw that coming. Larry, if you had to pick your surprise of the year through halfway, what would you go with?
Yeah, surprise, good or bad, right?
Sure.
I guess I can't argue with Arizona for sure. Although I think they had the pieces there. So I'll go with the Raiders.
Yeah.
I think they're I think they're playing some good football. Again, we've talked about their struggles and challenges and all that kind of stuff, but to be competitive in the division
with what they've gone through,
I would put them as the surprise.
That's a good call. Mike, what do you have for your surprise so far halfway through?
I've got a couple surprises on the bad side. I'm a little surprised San Francisco has dropped off as much. They're not doing as well. We talked about it earlier. I think both you and I were expecting more out of Miami.
For sure. That's one that really stands out to me.
I think on the negative side of it, they're a bit of a surprise. Until the Denver game last week, Dallas had a chance to beat Tampa Bay in week 1 and then rattled off 6 wins in a row.
Yeah.
They surprised me a little bit with how well they were playing.
Yeah, that Denver loss sets them back. And the one thing, Denver, who knows, they're flaking. We've talked about them. The one thing that game had to do was it had to sow that seed of doubt in every Cowboy fan across the world going, maybe we're not going to the Super Bowl this year. And I had already bought my tickets. Yeah, that's a big one because they were looking really, really strong on both sides of the ball. They were looking better than expected. And then Denver hit him in the mouth. And who would have seen that one coming? That was a surprise. Okay, let's get down to it. We're going to finish this thing off and we are going to look at our Super Bowl picks prior to the season, back in late August or whatever it was. I picked the Buffalo Bills to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the Super Bowl. I'm going to stick with that. I'm not going to feel great about it, but I'm going to stick with it. I will not change my pick. But if you want to change your pick, you are more than welcome to. I am going to go Bills versus Bucks, and I'm going to take the Bills to beat the Buccaneers. I'm going to really hate myself in the morning on that one. Rob, you had the Bills you had the Chiefs versus the Rams in the Super Bowl. I'm guessing you want a mulligan on one of those, but what would you make your pick right now at the midway point?
Yeah, I'm still on the Rams. I had the Rams winning it all, so that's staying the same.
Okay.
And if you'll allow me, I would like to switch out the Chiefs and give me the Ravens instead.
Gonna go Baltimore versus the Rams. That's an interesting lineup. Baltimore is one of those teams. They are more than capable of winning it every week. And we've got Lamar Jackson. You are never out of a game. Let's go next to Larry. Larry, you had the Buffalo Bills versus those Los Angeles Rams. You want to stick? Do you want to change that up? What do you want to go with? You sticking with Bills and Rams?
I'm sticking, but I think I picked the Bills to win.
You did.
And I would like to pick the Rams to win. But I'm sticking with Bills Rams.
Okay, Bills Rams, but you're going to take the Rams to come out on top. That'd be fun. I'd be all on board for that one. We finish up with Mike. Mike, you also had Bills versus Rams. You had Bills getting the win. Are you going to stick? Are you going to change that up?
I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to flip flop. I'm going to go with the Rams over the Bills. Keep the same teams. The Rams just bolstered themselves a little bit. Bills have showed a little bit more chink in the armor. I still think they're a Super Bowl contender, but I got the Rams winning it.
Okay. So we've got 3 Rams. I am the lone one taking the Bills. I want you guys to know I feel a lot better about taking the Bills now, because when everybody was picking the Bills, I knew full well I had no prayer. Now at least I have some hope. Fellas, the NFL season has been insanely fun. It's been so good to see fans back in the stands, and the excitement is back, and we've had good games. We've had upsets. For a while there was not a primetime game that was not outstanding. We were seeing great games. It has been a really, really fun season, and I'm hoping it's going to continue as we get into the playoffs. It's just going to be so much fun to watch these games. But know this, you're going to have to come back when the season is over. We're all going to have to answer for our sins again. We've got this 4-person thing going, and I really like it. It's a lot of fun to have you guys on. So thank each and every one of you for coming out and spending some time on the dose. Rob, I'll tee this up to you if you've got any final thoughts, but thank you for coming on and being a part of the mid-season show.
Oh, yes. It's always a pleasure. And I know we're probably scheduled to come back at the end of the season, but I'd like to throw out maybe before the playoffs.
Dude, that's a good idea. Yeah, maybe we kind of do a playoff kind of preview sort of thing. I like that idea a lot. Yeah. Everybody in for that?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Very cool. That's a good idea, Rob. Let's pencil that in. Larry, you got any final thoughts? I know that a lot of times you do have final thoughts, but let's get those final thoughts.
Well, just a side note, just wondering how everyone thought about or their stance on the vaccination.
Well, I was saving that conversation for Thanksgiving.
Okay.
With the entire family.
Right. I mean, we don't have to talk about it here or anything.
We'll put a pin in that. We'll get back to that and see what everyone thought, and we'll also talk about who we're all going to vote for in 2022.
No other thoughts. Ski season starts weekend after after Thanksgiving. Arm is doing great.
Doing good.
Yep.
You can do that.
I used to be able to do this, and now I can only do this.
Okay. So you're making slow improvements. Eventually, Larry, you're going to get back to that. Not yet, though. Not yet.
That's it. Those are my closing remarks, Clint.
always bringing the heat. Mike, we finish off with you. Any final thoughts that you have for the NFL or NFL season or anything else? Because you can talk about skiing, apparently, if you want to.
Yeah, no, I'm not much of a skier, but we've been fortunate here in Denver with a very Indian type summer.
Yeah, really mild.
So we've had some good weather to enjoy, but it's always fun to talk about football. I mean, it is far and away America's sport, and this season is no different. Like you mentioned, there were so many unbelievable games in those first few weeks, crazy upsets that nobody would have thought had happened. I just can't wait for the second half and see how things play out, and looking forward to expanded playoffs.
Yeah, that's going to be really fun. We get more teams in this year. We get 14 teams in now this year, and we're going to get an extra day and a Monday night game, and it's going to be a little bit different. So yeah, Rob brings up a really good idea. Let's do a playoff preview when week 18 or whatever it is ends. make sure that you guys plan to come in, and we will do a playoff preview and kind of touch base and see how things are going. But I want to thank each and every one of you for coming in. Thank you for discussing Manscaped and taking care of those kind of things, and for coming into the dose. Every time you come in, we have a great time. It's always fun to get together, and I appreciate it so much. Thank you guys. And we will be in contact very, very soon.
Very good. Thank you.
Excellent.